So I'm gonna pick up, and if I mess it up terribly bad, I'll just redo the whole chapter later. But I'm not gonna do it because I think I know where I was. And I noticed that it had cut out, and it didn't seem to want to come back on. So they're at the school. Goliath Industries is sponsoring a sport, and they're going to sponsor soccer. And Daniel used to be a good soccer player. He used to be the captain of a soccer team, but he got injured in an accident, and his mother wants him to join and be the captain again. But she's smoking Goliath Industries special ashes or something. I don't know. Okay, so every child in town will be signing up for the sports league, Mrs. Bailey said to Daniel, looking him in the rearview mirror. This will be a good way to meet people. Besides, it wouldn't look right if the children of Goliath's personnel manager didn't participate in the events sponsored by the company. That's the most important reason, isn't it? Daniel said. Mrs. Bailey glared at her son. Listen, Mr. Daniel Bailey, she said shrilly. I know it's not easy to move into a new place and make new friends, but Goliath Industries pays the bills around here, and there's nothing wrong with him showing a little appreciation and cooperation. To get along, you've got to go along. Got it? Daniel just nodded and sat quietly the rest of the way to school. The parking lot at the Centerville school was packed. Daniel didn't think so many people could possibly live in Centerville, but then he figured some of the children lived on farms around the town. Daniel had never known anyone who lived on a farm. He had lived in the city or the suburbs all his life. Mrs. Bailey got out of the car and immediately waved at someone she knew. Hurry up, she said to her children. You need to mingle. Daniel and Denise got out of the car. Mrs. Bailey was smiling and saying hello to different people as they walked by. Daniel was surprised at the number of people his mother already knew. She was good at remembering names since it was part of her job as personnel manager. Just then a whistle blew. A man in gym shorts and a jersey stood up on a platform. He wore a whistle around his neck. That's Coach Carruthers, Mrs. Bailey said. We better go. I'll listen from here, Daniel said, moving under the shade of a large tree. Coach Carruthers greeted everyone and then began explaining how the new sports league would work. When the coach finally finished talking, Cyrus Cutright, the plant manager, stood up to speak. Daniel had seen Mr. Cutright before. He was a tall, thin man with gray hair. His face was like leather and full of wrinkles. He seemed about 150 years old and reminded Daniel of an old, dried-up stick that could talk. But there was something about the eyes of Mr. Cutright that showed everyone he was a boss, even though he was old. His eyes could look right through you. Daniel didn't like to be around Mr. Cutright because he had seen those eyes up close once before, and that was enough. I'm not buffering yet, so I'm hoping it's okay. Zapton. After Mr. Cutright sat down in a metal folding chair, an old woman named Mrs. Happy was introduced. She seemed kind, sort of like a grandmother or Mrs. Santa Claus. Daniel didn't pay attention until she mentioned the word toys, then he listened. She is owner of the local toy store. She is going to give out some toys and some other things to all the newcomers. Then another man stepped up to speak. The top of his head was bald, and he wore black-rimmed glasses. He was introduced as Mr. Smedlow, the school principal. I know I speak not only for Centerville, the school district, but for the whole community as I welcome Goliath Industries and all the newcomers to our fair town, Mr. Smedlow said. The people began to applaud. Mr. Smedlow smiled and applauded too. Finally, the clapping stopped. Mr. Smedlow kept talking. Daniel leaned against a tree. He looked at all the people and wondered if it would be hard to make friends. Daniel had left two very good friends in the city. He knew he would miss them a lot. Daniel was remembering some of the bike rides he and his friends had gone, thinking about the Spirit Flyer. The boy was soon lost in his own thoughts. Crowds of applause woke Daniel from his daydream. The people were walking over to rows of tables and lining up. He saw his mother waving at him. She wanted him to come over to her. Daniel sighed and walked over. You get in line in table number 4, Mrs. Bailey said. Denise is already there. And please smile a little. People in small town will think you're a snob if you don't smile. Daniel limped over the table where he saw Denise. The other kids watched him limping. Some began whispering to each other. Daniel looked down at his feet so he wouldn't see them. He got in line behind his sister. Denise was talking happily to the girl she had just met. I think he's the one, someone said behind Daniel. Daniel turned in time to see a boy with sandy hair get in line. The boy smiled in a friendly way. My name's John, the boy said to Daniel. You're new here, right? Yeah, I'm Daniel, he replied. A girl standing up to the side joined the line. She took off her glasses and looked at Daniel squarely in the eyes. She had brown hair and was a little taller than the boy. With or without glasses, Daniel thought she was quite pretty. He tried not to stare. This is Susan, John said. She's my cousin. Hi, Daniel said. Daniel was about to say something else when he reached the front of the line. I don't think you want to take one of those number cards, Susan whispered. What? Daniel asked, puzzled. But before he could say anything else, his mother walked over. She pulled Daniel by his shoulders up to the woman behind the table. Daniel wanted to talk more to the new boy and girl, but he was locked in his mother's arms. Hello, Mrs. Happy. These are my children, Denise and Daniel. Mrs. Bailey said, this is Mrs. Happy, the owner of the toy store here in Centerville. She sells a lot of Goliath toys. That's right, the old woman said with a smile. On her shoulder sat a black crow. Daniel blinked in surprise. And this old bird is my friend, Nail. Oh, said Daniel. He looked closely at the old woman and crow. Something made him feel uneasy. Then he noticed a big black box behind the woman. The box seemed to be like a 5-foot cube. On the side facing the line was a large 3-foot white circle with a white X inside of it. In the center of the X was a hole about the size of a soccer ball. Daniel stared at the white circled X and grew more and more uncomfortable. Why is that circled X on that thing? Daniel asked. Just step right here, the old woman said as though she didn't hear Daniel's question. She gave both Denise and Daniel a black rectangular piece of plastic. Put your number card in that slot and your face up to the up to the hole. There'll be a flash like someone taking your picture. And go around to the back and get your number card. Then you can go over to the truck and get your 2 free toys. The high price of free toys. Denise put the odd black number card into the ball slot. When she put her face to the black hole, there was a quick flash. Denise rubbed her eyes and walked behind the box. Daniel waited, staring at the circled X. His mother frowned at him. Please hurry, young man, Mrs. Happy said. Others are waiting. I don't want to, Daniel said. He tried to see the face of the new girl and boy he'd just met, but his mother blocked his view. Daniel, don't be silly, his mother said. The others are waiting. But you don't understand, Daniel replied. I've seen the sign of the white circled X before. Come now, child, it only takes a second, the old woman said as with a soothing smile, and it doesn't hurt a bit. Why do I need a number card, Daniel asked. All the children have them, Mrs. Happy said. They are sort of like credit cards. You will need them to register on the big board, too. So please hurry, we have more children to process. What's a big board, the boy asked. Just do as you're told, Mrs. Bailey whispered angrily. You're holding up the line. Daniel looked at the smiling old woman and then at his frowning mother. He sighed and stepped forward. He put the piece of black plastic in the slot and his face up to the dark hole. The flash made him see spots. He was still half blinded as he walked around the back of the big box. A boy with black hair was putting something in a huge metal bin. He gave Daniel the number card. Daniel was surprised to see a shadowy figure of his own face deep within the card. What was even more surprising was the face in the card was grinning. Daniel was sure he hadn't been smiling when he put his face up to the white circled X. He stared at the smiling face. Something deep inside the boy told him he had just made a big mistake. All right, there you go. Hallelujah. A lot of people making big mistakes. I hope I'm not making a mistake. I don't know. We'll see how my channel does. I got a strike, like I said earlier. I don't know if I got that on there. I'll probably do this in part 1, part 2 for chapter 20 or chapter 1. But I got a strike against my channel. I don't know what that means. I can't find any information about it from anybody. So I just saw I got one. If I get another one, I could be shut down. So if that happens, hallelujah. Who cares? No, I don't want it to happen, but it'd be I see God's in control. That's what I believe. So if he wants to shut my channel down, he's perfectly free to do it. If he wants to open it back up, he can open it back up. We'll see what all happens. Okay. Well, God bless everybody. Only one person on anyway, so good night. Zapped in. Yeah, I'll try to keep reading them if I can.